Welcome to the world of Nectar of Devotion. As Atul Krishna Prabhu mentioned, that Nectar of Devotion was the first book that I got, that I received. And Nectar of Devotion, just practically the first page of Nectar of Devotion, changed my whole concept and opened up a new world for me. And what was so striking was that two things became very clear. One is, God is a person. I think most of the people in today's world, when they pursue some sort of spiritual inclination, they tend to become impersonalists, because the impersonalistic influence is so prominent that whenever you make any spiritual approach, you end up becoming an impersonalist, thinking that the ultimate spiritual thing is light or some energy or something, Brahman. That is and so I also was affected by that, especially Indian spiritual world was very much affected by Shankaracharya's impersonalism. And Prabhupada's presentation just very clearly indicated that God is a person, and that is Krishna. Krishna is God. It's not that Krishna is something like the way the impersonalists think, that by achieving perfection or samadhi, you become God. Like that concept was immediately smashed. And the other thing that was so striking was that I used to think naturally that liberation was the goal. And I got such a clear understanding, Prabhupada gave such a clear understanding of liberation, that there are two types of liberation, like positive and negative, or rather, at first, there are 5 kinds of liberation. I never heard such a clear definition of liberation. And there are 2 types of liberation. Out of those 5, one is negative and other 4 are positive. So, and that kind of just impressed me so much, like, a whole lot of misconception was just washed away, just in one stroke. And I found that books, I became so engrossed that I just kept on reading. I started reading the book when I went home. I went to the Calcutta temple, and actually I wanted to have a Bhagavad Gita, but they didn't have a Bhagavad Gita. So I told them to give me any book. And probably the size of Nectar of Devotion was similar to Bhagavad Gita. They offered me that book, and I just took that. I started reading. And I kept on reading till I fell asleep. And then when I woke up in the morning, the first thing I did is to pick up the book and start reading. And while reading, I started to picture myself in practicing all these activities in ISKCON. So mentally I kind of joined ISKCON. And anyway, that's how it all began. And it's also, I would like to mention that Mayapur is the place where I came and became a devotee. After reading Nectar of Devotion, I came to Mayapur, sort of out of curiosity, because I didn't think of joining at that time, because Prabhupada was in America at that time. So I thought I would wait until Srila Prabhupada came back, and when Srila Prabhupada came back, then I would offer myself to him. And I thought that until then I would visit the places of Mahaprabhu's pastimes and Krishna's pastimes. And the first place I went to first place I came to was Mayapur. And I came in the evening, and the next morning I shaved up. I shaved up, went to Ganga, took a bath, threw away my old clothes, put on dhoti and kurta, and that was it. It's a very, very special book. It's a very powerful book. So I'm very happy that Atul Krishna Prabhu gave me this opportunity to teach Nectar of Devotion here today. Thank you very much, Atul Krishna Prabhu. So how does it go? Should I go in one stretch till 1 o'clock?
You can take questions as you go if you like.
No, should I get a break in between, or do you find it tiring sitting for 2 hours?
We were taking a break after an hour or so for 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay, just to kind of stretch and anyway, we'll see. And so, how many of you, do you all have your books with you, copies of Nectar of Devotion? Okay, so I would start off with you all reading some paragraphs, right? How many of you like to read? Okay, so we'll start from this corner.
Preface?
Yeah, from the preface. Just one paragraph. You read the first paragraph.
The Nectar of Devotion is a summary study of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which was written in Sanskrit by Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada. He was the chief of the 6 Goswamis, who were the direct disciples of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When he first met Lord Chaitanya, Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada was engaged as a minister in the Mohammedan government of Bengal. He and his brother Sanatan were then named Dabir Khas and Sakar Malik respectively, and they held responsible posts as ministers of Nawab Hussain Shah. At that time, 500 years ago, the Hindu society was very rigid, and if a member of the Brahmin caste accepted the service of a Mohammedan ruler, he was at once rejected from Brahmin society. That was the position of 2 brothers, Dabir Khas and Sakar Malik. They belonged to the highly situated Saraswat Brahmin community, but they were ostracized due to their acceptance of ministerial posts in the government of Hussain Shah. It is the grace of Lord Chaitanya that he accepted these 2 exalted personalities as his disciples and raised them to the position of Goswamis, the highest position of Brahmanical culture. Similarly, Lord Chaitanya accepted Haridas Thakur as his disciple, although Haridas happened to be born of a Mohammedan family. And Lord Chaitanya later on made him the Acharya of the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Thank you, very good. So from this we understand that Nectar of Devotion was not only the translation of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, but it was kind of a summary study. This is not the same kind of work of Srila. This is not the regular work of Srila Prabhupada. Like the way Prabhupada translated Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. How did Prabhupada do that? First of all, they are done verse by verse, then word for word translation, transliteration and translation and purport. Nectar of Devotion and Krishna book are two major works of Srila Prabhupada, where Srila Prabhupada just gave the kind of, it's not actually a summary study alone. It is, Prabhupada's purport is very much there. But Prabhupada did not give this book just as a verse by verse presentation, but just a general reading. And now Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is the book that was written by Srila Rupa Goswami. And it has been pointed out, who is Rupa Goswami? Rupa Goswami was the chief he was one of the, he was 6 Goswamis, he was the principal of the head of the 6 Goswamis, you can say, most prominent of the 6 Goswamis. Like, although Sanatana Goswami was senior to Rupa Goswami, they were 2 brothers. Like Sanatana Goswami was the elder brother, but in this context, Rupa Goswami's name is coming first, which is unusual for Indian culture. In Indian culture, the senior person would be mentioned first. So in that respect, Sanatana Goswami's name should have been mentioned prior to Rupa Goswami's. But how do we, when we name the 6 Goswamis, how do we Rupa Goswami, then Sanatana Goswami, and so forth. Now why? Mainly because Rupa Goswami surrendered to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu before Sanatana Goswami. Rupa Goswami retired from his royal responsibilities first, and then Sanatana Goswami followed. Anyway, so, and these, as it has been mentioned in this chapter, Rupa Goswami was holding a very, very important position in the Muslim government at that time. And the Brahminical society, the Hindu society actually was so rigid that if anybody had anything to do with the Muslims, they were ostracized from the society. So Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, although they were coming from very exalted Brahminical families, but they were ostracized. Ostracized in the sense they were practically treated as a Muslim, treated as a non-Hindu. And that was an unfortunate thing in the Hindu culture, because this rigidity and insensitivity and cruelty to a great extent caused many people to convert into Islam, rejecting Hindu culture, rejecting their Hindu identity. Can you imagine if such brilliant personalities became Muslims? I mean, what a loss it would have been to the Hindu community. But these people are so insensitive, these Brahmanas of that time. That was, you see, here we have to understand one thing, that the Supreme Personality appears when there is a dharma saglani, when there is a decline in religious principles. So, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, the religious scenario of India was in a very, very precarious condition. Materially, it was very prosperous. Like Navadvip, it has been described in Chaitanya Bhagavat that hundreds of thousands of people used to take bath in each ghat of Navadvip. That means what was the population of Navadvip? Like thousands upon thousands of people were bathing in the Ganga. So there must have been millions of people. Like it was a major city at that time. And they were materially very opulent, very prosperous. But they had rejected. There was eclipse of religious principles, the Vedic spiritual culture. So at that time Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came. Another thing we have to remember here, that these personalities are not ordinary personalities. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes, He comes along with His associates. Just like Krishna came, did He come alone? No, He came along with His associates. Similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also came along with His associates. Sangopangastra Parshadam. Parshadam. His associates He came along with. He brought His associates with. He brought His abode, Dham, along with Him. So these personalities like Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and all the principal associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they all came from the spiritual sky. And there is a book by Kavi Karnapur called Gaur Ganudesh Deepika that is actually describing who are these associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Krishna's pastimes. And they all came from Krishna's pastimes. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, they came. So these are very, very exalted spiritual personalities. Yes, you can read now the next paragraph.
Lord Chaitanya's principle is universal. Anyone who knows the science of Krishna and is engaged in the service of the Lord is accepted as being in a higher position than a person born in the family of a Brahmana. That is the original principle accepted by all Vedic literatures, especially by Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. The principle of Lord Chaitanya's movement in educating and elevating everyone to the exalted pose of the Goswami is taught in the Nectar of Devotion.
Very good. Yeah. So, what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give is the highest spiritual understanding. And what is the ultimate conclusion of the Vedas? What is the essence of the Vedic wisdom, Vedic knowledge? Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, when one gets to know Krishna, we have to understand that he has understood the entire Vedic scriptures. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave that understanding directly. Like that's another thing about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's presentation. You see, in other ages, this development of understanding was gradual. Like naturally, like from class 1 you go to class 2, class 3 you go to class 4. And like that, you gradually progress in your studies. And then you finish your school, then you go to college, and college to university. But that was not the case with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's presentation. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and gave the highest. Say for example, what's the highest? So the highest is the university education. And in the university also, what's the highest? The PhDs, right? So, and it takes a long time, gradual process of coming to that, and very few students make it to the college. Even less make it to the university. And in the university, very few become PhDs. Right? So it is natural that development keeps on becoming more and more thin. Number keeps on reducing as you go up. But the uniqueness of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's presentation is that he awarded PhDs to everybody. Whether he is a literate or whether he is illiterate, irrespective of that consideration, he is just awarding PhDs. Only thing is that one has to come and sign up. That's the only consideration. Just approach Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and appeal for the degree. And although Chaitanya Mahaprabhu so freely distributing this mercy, but very few people are willing to accept it. But those who are accepting it, they're very fortunate. And what they're getting the highest spiritual benefit. So, I'm going to read the next paragraph.
Lord Chaitanya met the two brothers Dabarkas and Sakar Malik in a village known as Ramakere, the district of Malad, and after that, meeting the brothers, decided to retire from government service and join Lord Chaitanya. Dabarkas, who was later to become Rupa Goswami, retired from his post and collected all the money he had accumulated during his service. It is described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that his accumulated savings in gold coins equaled millions of dollars and filled a large boat. He divided the money in a very exemplary manner, which should be followed by devotees in particular and by humanity in general. 50% of his accumulated wealth was distributed to the Krishna-conscious persons, namely the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas. 25% was distributed to relatives and 25% was kept against emergency expenditures and personal difficulties. Later on, when Sakar Malik also proposed to retire, the Nawab was very much agitated and put him into jail. But Sakar Malik, who was later to become Srila Sanatana Goswami, took advantage of his brother's personal money, which had been disposed with a village banker, and escaped from the prison of Hussain Shah. In this way, both brothers joined Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Yeah, so the activities of a exalted personality is always exemplary. Like Rupa Goswami, when he retired from his family life, you see, he was a very rich person. Like he was the finance minister of Hussain Shah, the king of Bengal. And at that time, Bengal was the most prosperous country, prosperous place. Naturally, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared, so that place must be most opulent. And the king of that place must have been very, very wealthy, and his ministers were very opulent too. But when Rupa Goswami retired, one interesting thing we note here is that when he retired, he didn't take any money. Although he was so rich, and he gave half the money to his family, he gave, had accumulated, he distributed, 50% accumulated wealth distributed to Krishna conscious persons. Half the money was given to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. 1/4 of it was given to his family members. Nowadays, and this is a sign of sincerity of one's purpose. Like nowadays also sometimes we find some rich householders, they want to retire. That reminds me, when Prabhupada was here in Mayapur, one very wealthy man actually came and he wanted to become a devotee. From Calcutta he came. And he was some sort of connection, some sort of appreciation he had for Srila Prabhupada. And he left he was a jeweler, he was a very wealthy man. And he came to Mayapur. And Prabhupada didn't really mind it. Prabhupada was excited about it. And his family members, his wife, and soon his family members came and started to persuade him to go back. And he didn't want to go back. And so when we informed that to Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada said he's not serious. Although he pretended to be so committed, so convinced about Krishna consciousness, he wanted to join. But Prabhupada's comment was that he's not serious. And then Prabhupada mentioned that, so he came here, gave all his money to his family members, and he came without anything. Like if he was serious, then he would have brought his money to ISKCON, given it to Srila Prabhupada, and used it in Krishna's service. But he didn't do that. He just offered it to his family members. And that's why Prabhupada assessed his sincerity, that he was not serious. Because if he really loved Krishna, then, and if he really understood Prabhupada's mission, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, then he would have given all his money to this mission. Anyway, so the point I was trying to make is that nowadays what happens, like how do you figure out the sincerity of a person? If he comes with his money, he not only comes alone, but he brings his assets and offers it to Krishna. Then only we have to understand that he's serious. But if he leaves his money for his family members and comes here barefoot, that is not an indication of sincerity. Rupa Goswami pointed out, you can see the sincerity of his commitment. Like he gave not only 100% of his wealth to his family members, not even 50% of his wealth to his family members. 50% he gave to Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Those days, the preaching mission was not prominent. Otherwise, he would have given 100% to that preaching mission. For preaching, money is needed. But Rupa Goswami is retiring to Vrindavan. He didn't need any money there. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's preaching mission didn't start at that time. That massive preaching mission that started with Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and then Srila Prabhupada. That mission is very different from that time. They retired, gave the money to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas in donation, then 25% to his family members, and 25% he deposited with a local banker, just for some future need, and which had been clear very soon how that money was needed, because Sanatana Goswami was arrested. When he also wanted to retire, the Muslim king was very upset, and when he tried to persuade him to continue, but when he refused to continue, then the king arrested him, and he went to fight a battle with King Prataprudra in Orissa. And he thought when he would come back, he would deal with Sanatana Goswami. And Sanatana Goswami used that money to bribe the jail keeper and escaped. So that money was needed. So that is how we can see the sincerity of one's purpose. Okay, you can read.
Rupa Goswami first met Lord Chaitanya at Prayag, Allahabad, India, and on the Dashashamita bathing her of that holy city, the Lord instructed him continually for 10 days. The Lord particularly instructed Rupa Goswami on the science of Krishna consciousness. This teaching of Lord Chaitanya to Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada are narrated in our book Teachings of Lord Chaitanya.
Good. So, Sri Rupa Goswami, after retiring from home, he went to Vrindavan. He was going towards Vrindavan, and then on Prayag, which is present-day Allahabad, where Ganga and Jamuna and Saraswati, these three rivers, meets. It's called Prayag. And there is a very famous ghat called Dashashwamedh Ghat, the place where 10 horse sacrifices were performed. There for 10 days, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Srila Rupa Goswami. And Prabhupada is saying that instructions to Rupa Goswami has been included in his teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Would you like to read? Next.
Later, Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada elaborated the teachings of the Lord with profound knowledge of revealed scriptures and authoritative references from various Vedic literatures. Srila Srinivasacharya describes in his prayers to the 6 Goswamis that they were all highly learned scholars, not only in Sanskrit but also in foreign languages such as Persian and Arabic. They were scrutinizingly studying all the Vedic scriptures in order to establish the cult of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the authorized principles of Vedic knowledge. The present Krishna consciousness movement is also based on the authority of Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada. We are therefore generally known as Rupanugas, or followers in the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada. It is only for our guidance that Srila Rupa Goswami prepared his book Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is now presented in the form of the Nectar of Devotion. Persons engaged in Krishna consciousness movement may take advantage of this great literature and be very solidly situated in Krishna consciousness.
Very good. So, the 6 Goswamis, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu assigned them with 2 responsibilities: to establish Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings on the basis of scriptural evidences. You see, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not present anything in writing. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just gave Krishna Prem, Krishna consciousness. But it was necessary to substantiate Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. And the Goswamis actually took up that responsibility. It has been described by Srinivasacharya, Nana Shastra Vicharenaika Nipunau Sadharma Sangsthapuko Lokanam Hitakarino Tribhuvane Manno Sharanakaro. Nana Shastra Vicharena, consulting various scriptures, all the scriptures, they have established one Sadharma, the eternal dharma, eternal religious principle, which is Krishna consciousness, which was given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the 6 Goswamis did that. This is one responsibility. The other was to discover the places of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. They stayed in Vrindavan most of the time, and just they wrote. And Rupa Goswami presented Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings, the essence of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings, through various books, and one of them is the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And Nectar of Devotion is the summary study and translation of that book. Nectar of Devotion. So, the translation, Prabhupada kept it simple, the title. Nectar means nectar, Amrit. So Bhakti, Rasa, Amrita, Sindhu. Now Bhakti, Rasa, Amrita and Sindhu, 4 words. So Prabhupada actually took these 2 concepts, Bhakti and Nectar. Bhakti and Amrita, the nectar of devotion. And it is further elaborated on these 2 other concepts. Bhakti has been elaborated with rasa. And then there is not only just the bhakti rasa, but it is a sindhu, it's an ocean of bhakti rasa. So, yes, now you can read the next.
Bhakti means devotional service. Every service has some attractive feature which drives the servitor progressively on and on. Everyone of us within this world is perpetually engaged in some sort of service, and the impetus for such service is the pleasure we derive from it. Driven by affection for his wife and children, a family man works day and night. A philanthropist works in the same way for love of the greater family, and a nationalist for the cause of his country and countrymen. That force which drives the philanthropist, the householder and the nationalist is called rasa, or a kind of mellow or relationship whose taste is very sweet. Bhakti rasa is a mellow different from the ordinary rasa enjoyed by mundane workers. Workers labor very hard day and night in order to relish a kind of rasa which is understood as sense gratification. The relish or taste of the mundane rasa does not long endure, and therefore mundane workers are always apt to change their position of enjoyment. A businessman is not satisfied by working the whole week. Therefore, wanting a change for the weekend, he goes to a place where he tries to forget his business activities. Then after the weekend is spent in forgetfulness, he again changes his position and resumes his actual business activities. Material engagement means accepting a particular status for some time and then changing it. This position of changing back and forth is technically known as bhogatya, which means a position of alternating sense enjoyment and renunciation. A living entity cannot steadily remain either in sense enjoyment or in renunciation. Change is going on perpetually, and we cannot be happy on either state because of our eternal constitutional position. Sense gratification does not endure for long, and it is therefore called chapal sukh or flickering happiness. For example, an ordinary family man who works very hard day and night and is successful in giving comforts to the members of his family, thereby relishes a kind of mellow. But his whole advancement of material happiness immediately terminates along with his body as soon as his life is over. Death is therefore taken as the representative of God for the atheistic class of men. The devotee realizes the presence of God by devotional service, whereas the atheist realizes the presence of God in the shape of death. At death, everything is finished and one has to begin a new chapter of life in a new situation, perhaps higher or lower than the last one. In any field of activity, political, social, national or international, the result of our actions will be finished with the end of life. That is sure.
Very good. Okay, so here Prabhupada is actually giving us the understanding of the title Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Bhakti means devotional service. Rasa means mellow. Rasa is some sweet taste. The taste that is relishable, that is called rasa. Are you familiar with rasagulla? So that is rasa. It has a sweet taste, that's why it's attractive. So bhakti is attractive because it's a rasa, it's a mellow which is relishable. And it is nectarian. Now amrita, this word, although the English translation of amrita is nectar, but it has a deeper connotation. It is this word Amrita is coming from the root word Mrittu. Mrittu means death. And Amrita means that negates death. This word this preface, indicates negation. Like for example, mal means dirt, amal means no dirt, pure. Mrittu means death, amrita means no cessation, no end. What happens with death? At death everything ends. But amrita means negation of death. No end, endless. And Sindhu means an ocean. So Prabhupada is pointing out that Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Bhakti is a rasa and it is endless. It's uninterrupted. There is no interruption, there is no end to it. And as opposed to material rasa, people may be enjoying some rasa, but then he gets tired of it. Like for the example that Prabhupada gave of a businessman. Businessman's business is to make money. And there is some rasa in making money. One enjoys making money, touching money, spending money, right? But although there is some rasa in that, in making money, but he gets tired of it. From Monday to Friday he makes money, and then he becomes so tired of it that on Saturday he just runs out of that situation and goes to some place which is completely different from that. He retires from that activity. But Bhakti Rasa is not like that. Bhakti Rasa, there is no end to its relish. Bhakti Rasa we can continuously enjoy day after day, month after month, year after year, life after life. That is the difference between mundane rasa and bhakti rasa. So here we are actually getting the taste of some mellow that is so sweet and so relishable that we will never be satisfied. The more we relish it, the more we will want to enjoy it. So the craving for this rasa will continue to increase as we make advancement. I think we have to go a little faster because we have quite a few, and we already gone on for about 1 hour, little more than an hour. So anyway, since we have read all these, I will briefly discuss about some salient points. So Prabhupada made that point here. Bhakti rasa, however, the mellow relished in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, does not finish with the end of life. It continues perpetually and is therefore called Amrita, that which does not die but exists eternally. This is confirmed in all Vedic literatures. Bhagavad Gita says that a little advancement in Bhakti Rasa can save the devotee from greatest danger. How? Bhakti is so wonderful that when you execute this bhakti, like service to Krishna, devotional service to Krishna for his pleasure, Krishna becomes grateful to the devotee. And Krishna feels that he is not capable of reciprocate properly. That's how indebted Krishna becomes about bhakti. So that's why in Bhagavad Gita Krishna has pointed out, Salpam appasya dharmasya trayote mahato bhayat. Even a little execution of this dharma, of this devotional service to Krishna, will save us, free us from a great danger. Whereas the mundane activities, materialistic activities, so here we are actually coming in two distinct considerations: material activities and spiritual activities. The bhakti is the highest spiritual activity. And mundane activities are material activities. What is the result of material activities? Everybody becomes responsible to the reactions of his actions. Whether it's good or bad, both actions tie one down to the material nature. So that is the problem with these mundane activities. Even good activities will tie us down to the material nature. Because good activities will give us the good result and we have to enjoy it. There's no way out. Of course, people don't mind when it is of enjoyment, but still it is a bondage. So we have two considerations: mundane activities and spiritual activities. The mundane activities will come to an end, and mundane activities will become boring at some point. But that will not be the case with spiritual activity. Because this relationship with Krishna has a newer and newer enjoyment. Therefore, there is no room for getting bored. That will be explained later on. But the main point is, mundane activities will cause us to be tied down to the material nature. Prabhupada is explaining that point. A living entity is offered a particular type of body as a result of his action in the present body. The way you are acting in the present body, accordingly we'll get our next body. But that is not the case with the spiritual activities. If our body at present is engaged in the activities of Krishna consciousness, then it is guaranteed that we'll have at least a human body. Why? Generally, why will we get a human body? Why it is guaranteed? Because devotional service never ends. Devotional service perpetuates. Devotional service continues. When one becomes engaged in devotional service, he gets a chance to get engaged in devotional service again. So in this life, if one has rendered devotional service and he dies without completing his entire course, then he will get a chance to continue with his devotional service in his next life. And in order to do that, he has to have a human body. So that's why Prabhupada is so emphatically pointing out that when one is engaged in devotional service, then he will get at least he'll get a human body in his next life, and he'll get a chance to continue further in devotional service. Now, isn't it a wonderful option? Yeah. So the eternal engagement of bhakti rasa can be understood by a serious student upon studying the nectar of devotion. Adaptation of bhakti rasa or Krishna consciousness will immediately bring one to an auspicious life free from anxieties and will bless one with transcendental existence, thus minimizing the value of liberation. So this is what bhakti does. It reduces the value of liberation. You'll come across that bhakti, one of the qualities of bhakti, it is moksha laguta krit. Moksha means liberation. Laguta means makes it insignificant. Even liberation becomes insignificant compared to bhakti. So now Prabhupada is pointing out that rasa is actually a loving exchange. And every living entity has a tendency to love. Even a tiger has a tendency to love, such a ferocious animal. But towards the cubs of the tigress and the tiger, how do they feel? They feel love. A snake, such a frightening creature. But even the snake loves. So this love is there in every living entity. The propensity to love. And it is through the love that we want to derive the joy. Joy and love are interrelated. Joy is derived out of love. Real joy is derived out of love. That's why in the material nature, love is so much desirable. Love stories are so popular. And everybody, love, this is the word that has been most used in the vocabulary. Everyone is talking about love. I love you, you love me, don't you love me, and so forth. Why? Because everybody wants to be joyful and everybody tries to enjoy through the loving exchange. But Prabhupada is pointing out that in this material nature they don't know what love is. In the material nature, they do not know who is the real object of love. And the real object of love is Krishna. And until and unless that love is reposed to Krishna, the heart will not be satisfied. On the other hand, the moment the love is offered to Krishna, then we become completely content. So this bhakti rasa, the ultimate culmination of love is in this bhakti. And what is the meaning of bhakti? Bhakti means love to Krishna. Love for Krishna. So in this way, Srila Rupa Goswami has very scientifically presented the culture of Krishna consciousness through the nectar of devotion. And Prabhupada is pointing out, the nectar of devotion will the nectar of devotion will teach us how to turn the one switch that will immediately brighten everything, everywhere. One who does not know the method is missing the point of life. And then, towards the later part of his preface, Prabhupada is pointing out that the modern human civilization, materialistic civilization, has made a massive advancement, and they are leading a very comfortable life with a lot of prosperity and comfort, enjoyment. But still people are not happy. Because why people are not happy? Because they don't know who to love. So materially they may have made a lot of progress, but they missed out on that main point, who to love. They want to love somebody and they want to be loved by somebody, but all those loving relationships are ending in total frustration. Why? Because they do not know who to love. And that's why Prabhupada is saying the nectar of devotion will teach us who to love. And bhakti actually means love. The word bhakti, the real meaning of bhakti is love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. An expression of that love through devotional service. The nectar of devotion, I am appealing, Srila Prabhupada is appealing to such confused men to learn the art of devotional service as directed in the Nectar of Devotion. And I'm sure that the fire of material existence burning within their hearts will be immediately extinguished. The root cause of our dissatisfaction is that our dormant loving propensity has not been fulfilled, despite our great advancement in the materialistic way of life. Our dormant loving propensity hasn't been properly fulfilled. The Nectar of Devotion will give us practical hints how we can live in this material world, perfectly engaged in devotional service, and thus fulfill all our desires in life and the next. The Nectar of Devotion is not presented to condemn any way of materialistic life, but the attempt is to give information to religionists, philosophers, and people in general how to love Krishna. So here Prabhupada is making another very important point, that Nectar of Devotion, the teachings of the Nectar of Devotion, is not telling us to reject anything. Rather, simply accept Krishna as the object of love. Whatever you are doing, you can do that. If you're a businessman, if you're a student, if you're whatever you may be, if you're a man, woman, old, young, you don't have to change your position. You simply have to bring in Krishna into your life and offer your love to Him. So then finally Prabhupada is saying in the preface, the Nectar of Devotion is specifically presented for persons who are now engaged in the Krishna consciousness movement. So this book is very important for all the devotees. Other people may not understand it, but the devotees who have accepted the process, those who have accepted, those who have understood the value of this process and have accepted Krishna as the ultimate object of their love, for them this Nectar of Devotion is absolutely essential. So in this way, Prabhupada ended the preface of the Nectar of Devotion. And finally Prabhupada thanked those who helped him print this book and distribute it to the people in general. Hare Krishna. So time flies. I hope you are not feeling tired, or you're tired? Little bit. Okay. And so should we give 5 minutes break now? Okay. Hare Krishna. So in 5 minutes. Right. There's a little difference, you see. Like you are a young man, your whole time and energy and your whole life is there, and you're offering it to Krishna. You can render so much service. But that person was just an old man. He was just coming here to become a burden to the society. He wouldn't have gone out and traveled around the world and preached. Right? He wouldn't have been gone out to distribute books. That's the difference. He's an old man. At the fag end of his life, right? He comes to society to, Anyway, not only him, we find people like that coming. Especially when old people come, we should make it a point. If they have money, they should bring at least 50% to Krishna. Otherwise, they are coming because nobody is taking care of them. The family is considering that they are a burden. Now dump the burden to ISKCON. Now that shouldn't be the case. That was the point I was making. Yes, Gita Nagari.
Yeah. Krishna says, Prabhupada says in this purport that there's a certain taste that one gets from mundane rasa, from one's family life, of one's love relationships in this world. And then Prabhupada is making the point that these love relationships, they don't deliver the same taste as a love relationship with Krishna. But my objection to this is that Krishna is invisible, we can't see him. And, we can't touch him, we can't taste him, we can't exchange, I can, but I'm in a very esoteric way, but I can't sit down and talk with him, I can't see him face to face.
Yeah.
So therefore,
okay, I got your point. Yeah, so
mundane rasas deliver more kick.
yeah. See, so that is the difference between sense gratification and spiritual reciprocation. Right? That's why we have to understand these two differences. Sense gratification, like, okay, I can touch, I can taste, and therefore I have a loving relationship. I can talk, right? But they all are centered around our sense perception. But beyond sense perception is our consciousness, right? Our consciousness now in the conditioned stage of a living entity, the consciousness is flowing through the body, through the senses, right? And therefore the sense perceptions become so easy. Sense perceptions become so important. Because that is all that we know. But beyond the world of our sense perception, there is another reality. That's the spiritual reality. And this information by Rupa Goswami and Srila Prabhupada is making us aware of that reality and what is going to be available there, right? So that is the difference. Now you are saying that yes, I can talk to somebody, I can touch that person, I can feel that person and so forth, right? Yes, you can also have that same relationship with Krishna, but you have to follow the process, right? So that, and it will be a reality, this will be a higher reality. That reality is so real, then you will realize that this so-called reality is only an illusion, like a dream. It's not real, it's a dream. But that's the absolute reality. And that is what Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Nectar of Devotion, will reveal to us. Krishna is real. Only we lost the ability to perceive him. It's not his defect, it's our defect. Just like a blind man may not be able to see the sun, but that doesn't affect the sun. It is the blind man's misfortune that he cannot see the sun. But there is a cure for his blindness, and Nectar of Devotion is giving us that cure. But when his eyes become, now he may not be able to see the sun because he is blind, but when his blindness is cured, then he will be able to see the sun. And then along with that will come all kinds of enjoyment. Yes?
If there's time now, I request Maharaj, please, if you can tell something relevant about the Rupa Goswami's way of living in Vrindavan while he was writing.
Yes, yes. You see, they were renounced in a real sense. And this renunciation again is through getting the higher taste. Renunciation can be of two kinds. One is an artificial renunciation. The artificial renunciation is forcing to renounce, right? This artificial renunciation has been described like you're hungry, but you're not eating, right? You're fasting, but you're hungry and you're meditating on the food stuff all the time. What's the point in that fasting? Just go and eat some food then if you're that obsessed with your hunger. But there is another state where by getting the higher taste, you lose the taste for the garbage. Right? Garbage food, junk food. Right? So this is now Rupa Goswami and the Goswamis of Vrindavan, they were renounced with their higher taste. Their renunciation was not artificial renunciation. They kind of went to Vrindavan, they were living in that kind of situation where they were in constant association with Krishna and Srimati Radharani. Like apparently they were Takta Turnam Ashesha Mandalapati Shrenim Sada Tuchhavat Bhutva Dina Ganesha Ko Karunaya Kopina Kanthashrito. This is also one verse from the Shad Goswami Ashtakam by Srinivas Acharya. They were actually extremely wealthy people, these Goswamis of Vrindavan. They were like kings and monarchs, right? But they have rejected that and accepted a life where the only possession was a kopin and a blanket. Not only a blanket, a worn out blanket. Kanthashrito. Why did they do that? They accepted that life in order to bestow their mercy upon the miserable conditioned soul. Dina Ganesha Ko Karunaya Kopina Kanthashrito. But what they were doing all the time, Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajananandena Mattaliko. But all the time they were just engaged in the loving exchange with Radha and Krishna. Right? So this is how we can see that how this love is real. Because of this love, and it has such a mellow, such a rasa, that everything else becomes completely insignificant compared to that. That was the life that they were leading, that was in Vrindavan. Yes?
Maharaj, is it possible you can speak something more on Bhog Tyag and Chapal Sukhi?
Okay.
Related to spiritual life?
Yeah. So Bhog Tyag is that. Bhog Tyag is something like, actually that is, I skipped that point because I was, like Prabhupada mentioned, the Bhog Tyag and Chapal Sukha. Very good point. Bhog Tyag is something like, you see, you eat a lot of food and then end up with a diarrhea and then you don't want to eat something for 3 more days, right? But then on the 4th day, when your diarrhea is over, and then you go back to that same eating. Right? So that is Bhog Tyag. And Bhog Tyag is for Chapal Sukh. Like Chapal Sukh means flickering enjoyment. Like you are relishing the food, but how long does that relish last? This mundane relishing of food leads to a diarrhea. Now when you have been enjoying when you are eating, but you ate so much that you ended up with diarrhea. Now when you got diarrhea, are you enjoying or you are suffering? So that so-called enjoyment led into suffering. And due to that suffering, there is a momentary rejection of that indulgence or momentary diversification from that enjoyment. But then once that situation is rectified, then one goes back to that situation again. Because, you see, the reason is the soul always wants enjoyment. But if it doesn't have any other source of enjoyment, then he'll revert back to that enjoyment time and time again, although for the time being he may cease from that activity. Whereas by getting the taste, higher taste, when you naturally give up the lower taste, that is the real renunciation. Okay, yes.
Maharaj, you were saying that once that we have performed devotional service, then we get human body. Over the years I heard different things, I heard that, so I was wondering how much service do we have to perform to appear as like a human body in the next life? Or is it anyone that comes to in touch with Krishna consciousness, they get human?
Well, just continue to serve with all sincerity. That is what really counts. Like, what really matters is anna bhilashita sunnam, no other desire but to please Krishna. With that mood, with that attitude, serve Krishna. Then what will happen? Krishna will be pleased. And Krishna not only will be pleased, Krishna will be indebted. Krishna will think that this spirit soul, this living entity, this devotee of mine has done so much for me. Now how am I going to repay? So Krishna actually becomes indebted to his devotee when he renders service without any personal motivation. Now personal motivation is something like, you see, you render service to Krishna, but at the back of your mind you have some other agenda. Like you are rendering service to get a position. You are rendering service to get some other benefit. Now Krishna is the super soul, he knows everything. You may very expertly hide your intentions, but you can't hide it from Krishna. Right? So what Krishna wants to see, that we are rendering service without any other motivation. That is called anna abhilashrita shunnam. Free from any other desires besides serving Krishna and pleasing Krishna. Right? So when we render service with that attitude, no matter how little, how insignificant that service may be, Krishna will reciprocate. And that reciprocation will be, at least that we'll get an opportunity to serve him even more. Right? And that is why Krishna will reward us with a human body. What to speak of giving us a spiritual body? Krishna may say, okay, come, stay with me. Yes, Chandrasekhar?
The same line, how much minimum service does a jiva have to perform to be guaranteed a human body?
Anna bhilashita sunnam. Like no other desire. That's the minimum expectation.
And how do we understand the statements where Prabhupada, for example, says...
Ask yourself whether you have any other desire.
No, I have tons, but Prabhupada says if he takes one morsel of prasad, guaranteed human life. There's statements like that, for example. How do we explain, how do we understand that? They definitely don't have Anya Vilashita Sunnam when they take that one morsel of prasad.
So distribute prasad. Create the good fortune for others. Prabhupada said it. So deliver everybody. Like Vasudev Datta. He begged Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, give me all the sins and let everybody else get delivered. Yes?
Maharaj, can you explain a little bit about spiritual rasa and material, the mundane rasa?
Young boy falls in love with a young girl. What is that? That is mundane rasa. Right? In their association they derive some pleasure. They derive some taste. That is rasa. But spiritual rasa is when one falls in love with Krishna. The same love that a young boy feels towards, or young girl feels towards a young boy, when one feels the same kind of attraction for Krishna, that is spiritual rasa. Yes?
You see, this world is like Dukhala and Ashashvatam, full of troubles and miseries. And then we come in contact with Krishna and we sometimes we just pray for Krishna save us from these miseries. How we can just do for Krishna, for example, this is deep rooted, like not only I do my service for Krishna, just for this relief from miseries.
Well, that is the neophyte stage, like serving Krishna in order to become free from misery, which means liberation, right? Desire for liberation. But pure devotional service is even free from the desire of liberation. Yes.
So you have said, Maharaj, that this Navadvip was an opulent city once upon a time. So after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, this became eternal dham, or from very long ago it was an eternal dham?
It's all eternal means always. Navadvip is always eternal. Eternal dham. Eternal means no beginning, no end. Right? So Navadvip has always been like that. But when Mahaprabhu comes, the spiritual Navadvip becomes manifest. And when Mahaprabhu goes, the spiritual Navadvip becomes covered. Right? Only with our pure eyes, pure perception, pure vision, we can see that spiritual aspect. Spiritual dham. Addapiho nittolila kore gaura rai kono kono bhagyovane dekhibare pai. Still today, Mahaprabhu's eternal pastimes are going on here. Only some fortunate souls can see that. Now, who are those fortunate souls who have developed their spiritual vision? But with material vision, we'll see rickshawalas, hulurghat, shops on the road, dirt, and so forth. But with spiritual vision, we'll penetrate through that and see Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime.
Who are the rickshawalas and other persons roaming here and there in Navadvip?
Some fortunate souls that they're getting a chance to be in Navadvip. But you can see that they are not participating in Mahaprabhu's pastimes, most of them.
But I've heard that even they are 400 Vishnu, something like that.
I don't know about that. In Navadvip they are not in four hands. In Jagannath Puri, Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, Jagannath Puri, he sees the residents of Jagannath Puri with four arms. But in Navadvip, 2 arms. Yes?
Maharaj, if bhakti is pure, so normally we see sometimes so many devotees are always morose, flickering happiness, and both they are changing from one ashram to another, from one temple to another. So how come if bhakti is pure, they are not getting this purity? And
Bhakti is pure, but the question is how you are performing it. Whether your performance of that bhakti is pure or not. As long as there is annabhilash, other desires, other agendas, it's not pure.
so the Nectar of Devotion is speaking about pure devotion service.
Yes, yes. And Nectar of Devotion is also clarifying what is pure devotional service for our benefit. Nectar of Devotion also will describe Karma Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti. Nectar of Devotion is giving us the informations. Giving us the informations, but execution is up to us. The devotion becomes pure through execution. The question is whether you are executing pure devotional service or mixed devotional service. Yes? Okay.
Maharaj will explain that Amrit means that which doesn't end, that which doesn't die. And Bhakti is the taste or the rasa doesn't end, continues. And so I wanted to find out that a soul that's entrapped in a material body, that attends ISKCON programs like art, and you have amazing kirtans, then you develop a taste for that. But then the body has limited capabilities of work. So then when the body has such limitations, but you still have the taste within, how do you understand the amrit in that particular statement?
Yeah. You see, pure devotional service is rendered by the pure spirit soul. Body is the medium in our conditions, because now in our conditioned state that we have become limited by our body or entrapped by the body, we are rendering devotional service through the body, because we are identifying ourselves with the body. Therefore we are rendering devotional service through the body. We are rendering devotional service through our mind, because we are identifying ourselves with the mind. But ultimately, when we become situated in our pure spiritual identity, then we'll be able to execute pure devotional service. But as now we are practicing, since our identity is with the gross and subtle body, we are using it, the gross body and subtle body, in serving Krishna. But a time will come when we will transcend the gross and subtle body and then execute pure devotional service in the pure spiritual identity. But then again, then the body also will become spiritualized. A pure devotee's body is also pure, spiritual. Now, in this respect, I was mentioning in the class this morning, like in this respect, Prabhupada gives the example of the iron and fire. Now, when the iron becomes red hot, is it iron or fire? Fire. A pure devotee's body, although it is apparently made of matter, but being in contact with the pure spirit soul, it is spiritualized. It's not matter anymore. It's pure spirit, spiritual.
Does that mean that the Raja is now experienced within?
Therefore, you'll come across the devotional service has 3 stages. This will, later chapters will describe that. That sadhana bhakti, devotional service in practice, bhava bhakti, ecstatic devotional service, spontaneous devotional service, and prema bhakti, loving devotional service. So that loving devotional service is the pure devotional service. Love. You're rendering service to Krishna simply out of your love for him. So, yes, you had a question?
Can you pray for our parents and relatives materially that?
Yeah, sure.
That will...
No, it's out of gratitude that they have done so much for you. Like, you see, just as Krishna is grateful, devotee also is grateful. When somebody does something for a devotee feels gratitude. And so the parents, considering how much your parents have done for you, yes, just like Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj. When he was going back to Vaikuntha, then he asked about his mother, who actually led him into this path, and he felt, how can he go without his mother, who had done so much for him. And then he was pointed out his mother was already ahead of him in another chariot, Vaikuntha plane. So that is how a devotee is. Also, when Hiranyakashipu was killed by Nrsingadev, Prahlad Maharaj's prayer to him was that although he has been a demon, please be merciful unto him. And Krishna was merciful unto Hiranyakashipu. So yes, and devotee prays for everybody. As the more one advances, the more he prays for others. Like as I was saying, Vasudev Datta, he wanted that everybody should become delivered. Okay, yes.
Your devotee's body becomes transcendental. How it's understood, like Rishabdev, when used to pass too, so it's used to become fragrance. So, in sense, how you understand?
Maybe you become pure and demonstrate it to us. Actually, we all are here to become purified. The process will purify us. And we will see how it happens. Rishabdev, he was an incarnation of the Lord, and he was an abadhut. He did not have any external consciousness. But we cannot imitate Rishabdev, because his mission and our mission are different. Like our mission is to preach. And when you are preaching, say for example, like an abadhut, he doesn't have any external consciousness. He doesn't even wear any clothes. Like Rishabdev used to roam around, naked, stark naked. Right? But modern Jains, some of they have a cult. They imitate Rishabdev. They move about naked. But it's so disgusting. No gentleman will come in front of those people. Therefore, we dress ourselves nicely in order to preach. We are not concerned about our own liberation and our own experiences, our own feelings. We are simply concerned about delivering others. Delivering others means carry the message to others. That is our mission, and that's the mission of Nectar of Devotion. Distribute. So, I was supposed to cover also the introduction today, preface and introduction, part of the introduction. So tomorrow we'll deal with the entire introduction. Out of that, last 6 pages are very important, which deals with pure devotion. What is pure devotional service? So we'll cover it tomorrow. So thank you all very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari. Goswami Prabhupada ki, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, the purpose of studying Nectar of Devotion is simply to become a good devotee. It has been pointed out, Rupa Goswami presented this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu simply to teach us how to become a pure devotee. So, it actually begins with the introduction. Like this is what we covered yesterday. The preface was Prabhupada's writing, Prabhupada's presentation of his realizations and purpose. And now we are actually going to enter into the Nectar of Devotion. So you understood the meaning of the word Nectar of Devotion? Nectar of devotion. And that is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. The nectarian ocean of devotional mellows. The literal translation will be that. The nectarian ocean of devotional mellow. But in simple words, Prabhupada translated that as the nectar of devotion. So introduction is beginning with the invocation. Invoke, what's the meaning of the word to invoke? To invite, yes, a more...
To catch someone's attention.
Bring forward.
Invoke literally means to appeal for help due to one's inability to execute it. The Sanskrit word for that is the Sanskrit word is Mangalacharan. Mangal means auspiciousness, and Acharan means performance, and the execution of auspiciousness. At the beginning, a Vaishnava always offers his prayer and glorification to the Lord and his devotees to appeal for their help to be able to properly execute the mission. You'll always find that. For example, we find Prabhupada's writings, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya, or Bandehang Shri Guru Sri Juta Pada Kamalam. These are the invocations, and through the invocations what's happening? We are actually inviting the auspiciousness and expressing our appeal for the mercy and the help of the Lord and His devotees. A devotee is naturally very humble. He never thinks that he is capable of doing anything. If we recognize our identity as being very, very minute, then what can a minute little thing do? And a Vaishnava, because he recognizes his minuteness, therefore he recognizes his inability to execute anything. Do you remember when Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was asked to write on Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life and teachings? What did he do? He went to the Madan Mohan temple and offered his prayers to Madan Mohan. Do you know what happened then? Madan Mohan's garland fell, expressing Madan Mohan's reciprocal reassurance to him. So similarly, Rupa Goswami is appealing to Krishna first. Just at the beginning of the book, he is expressing his invocation by offering his prayers to Sri Krishna, who has attracted the gopis, like Taraka, Palika, Shama, Lalita, and finally Srimati Radharani. Lord Shri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, the reservoir of all rasas. And reservoir of all rasas, that is the first address he is making. Akhila Rasamrita Murti. Akhila means all. Rasa, Amrita Murti. So now you can see the link also. He is writing the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, ocean of nectarian devotion. And he is beginning by saying Akhila Rasamrita Murti. Who is actually the personification of all the rasas? Krishna. Prashri Mararuchi Taraka Pali. who is attracting and which are called neutrality, servitorship. There are akhila rasa, all rasas. How many rasas are there? 12 rasas. There are 5 principal rasas and 7 secondary rasas. Principal rasas, the principal rasas are constant. They don't change. Like when somebody is situated in Santaras or Dasaras, his rasa remains the same. That rasa doesn't change. He always remains the servant. But he experiences the secondary rasas or the sancharis rasas. They are known as Hasya, Adbhut, Veera, Raudra, Vibhatra, Bhayanak and Karun. Laughter, joking. That's a laughing or laughter is a rasa, mellow. Hasya, Adbhut, surprise, wonder. Veera, chivalry. Raudra, anger. Bhayanaka, fearsome. Vibhatsa, ghastly. Karun, pathos. So these 7 rasas change, and those changing rasas give rise to the joy of the heart, especially when they are in relation to Krishna. So Akhila Rasamrita Murti. Krishna has been identified as the Akhila Rasamrita Murti, the personification of all the rasas. So in this way, his universal and transcendental attractive features, by his universal and transcendental attractive features, he has captivated all the gopis, headed by Taraka, Palika, Shyama, Lalita, and ultimately Srimati Radharani. Radha Prayan Bidhur Jayati. Let his lordship's grace be on us, so that there may not be any hindrance in the execution of this duty of writing the nectar of devotion, impelled by his divine grace, Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. So Prabhupada is offering the prayers. Prabhupada is actually repeating Rupa Goswami's prayer in this way. So we can see Mangalacharan, what it actually means. Invocation, like invoking the mercy. Invoking one's, invoking auspiciousness. That let all auspiciousness, what does auspiciousness do? Auspiciousness make things happen without hindrance. And when something is inauspicious, then there are impediments. So auspiciousness enhances and inauspiciousness impedes. Therefore Mangalacharan, inviting the auspiciousness. Then Prabhupada is offering his prayers to Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada is saying this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, his mission is the sublime science of devotional service as propounded by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu? Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is the sublime science of devotional service. So Prabhupada was very emphatic about this point, that Krishna consciousness is a science. Krishna consciousness is not sentiment. Krishna consciousness is not just blind faith. What goes on in the name of religion today is actually just blind faith. They're blindly following something without any reason behind it, without any logical explanation behind it. Like for example, people claim that I am Christian because I am born in such and such family, or this is my faith. And they're not open to, in most cases, they're not open to any other ideas. Or the Muslims, they just don't want to, their religion forbids them to listen to any other religion, any other philosophical concept. So that is the problem with faith. It's my faith and I believe in it no matter whatever you say. But Krishna consciousness is not a faith. What's the difference between a faith and a science? Faith changes, very good point. And science?
Remains the same, faith.
Yes, here.
In science, no matter what faith you have.
Yes, very good.
It's applicable for all people at all times.
Very good. It's applicable to all people for all time.
Science is verifiable.
Exactly. Right. Science is experimentally verified facts. Science is not dealing with just some concocted ideas. Science deals with facts. And those facts can be experimentally verified, experimentally proven. No matter wherever you go, if you do electrolysis of water, what will you get? Hydrogen and oxygen. And what is the proportion? 2 parts hydrogen and 1 part oxygen. When you electrolyze it, you will see volume-wise also the 2 part is hydrogen, 1 part is oxygen. Which means there are 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen makes 1 molecule of water. Now, is it a matter of faith? No, it's a science. No matter wherever you go, you take water, and wherever you bring the water from, you electrolyze it, you'll get the same result. So that is the difference between science and faith. Now, is Krishna consciousness a faith? No. Is Hinduism a faith? Yes. Is Islam a faith? Yes. Is Judaism a faith? Is Christianity a faith? Therefore, there is a distinct difference between these religions and Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada is giving us a scientific understanding of the spiritual reality. So it's a science of the spiritual reality. Beyond this material nature, there is another reality. And that is called spiritual reality. And we all came from there. We all belong there, and we all came from there, and we need to go back there. The ultimate goal of our life is to go back to that place where we actually belong to. Back home. Home is the place where we belong. So therefore Prabhupada is saying, back home, back to Godhead. So we need to go back there. In order to go back there, we need to know what that world is like, what that world is comprised of, and how to go back there. And when you go back there, what will you find there? So that is the science of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. That is the science of Krishna consciousness. Then Prabhupada is again drawing another analogy with bhakti being compared to ocean. Mind you, Rupa Goswami, what did he do? He compared bhakti to ocean, bhakti, rasa, amrita, like he compared bhakti to rasa, then amrita, and then sindhu. Right? If bhakti is the noun, then there are 3 other concepts, rasa, amrita, sindhu, they are actually identifying or enhancing that concept, which is an adjective. Bhakti is rasa, bhakti is amrita, and bhakti is sindhu, ocean. So here, Prabhupada is pointing out that bhakti is an ocean, right? And other spiritual practices, they are like rivers. What is the goal of other spiritual practices? Other spiritual practices, the goal of other spiritual practices are bhukti and mukti. Not really bhukti also, that is the material aspect of those activities. But when you go into the spiritual aspect, then the spiritual aspects actually generally deal with liberation, mukti. And Prabhupada is pointing out, like, those rivers of different spiritual practices are like rivers, then bhakti is the ocean. Because all the rivers will ultimately come to the ocean. All the spiritual practices ultimately must come to devotion. Otherwise, it will simply be a waste of time. Is it clear? So all the spiritual practices, not even spiritual, all the material practices as well, must end in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, it is a simple waste of time. Now, in the ocean, there are sharks. And the sharks have two qualities. The sharks, you cannot really catch a shark by net, because it breaks through the net. So here, the net, Rupa Goswami has compared, the net is the time. The net has been compared to time, and the shark is the devotee. A shark is a devotee. Where does a devotee swim? Where does the shark swim? In the ocean. And the shark cannot be affected by or caught by a net. So devotees are beyond the influence of time, which is compared to a net. Kala. The Sanskrit word for net is jala. And time is kala. So devotees are not affected by the kala like jalas. And so devotees are not affected. The shark like devotees are not affected by time, because time cannot do anything to them. Time means what? Time means janma mrityu jara vyadhi. Time means the cycle of birth and death. A devotee is beyond the cycle of birth and death. Devotees may take birth. Devotees are not affected by that. But when they take birth, what is their objective? Is simply to serve Krishna. So service to Krishna is the only purpose that a devotee has. Another quality of a shark is, the shark never goes to the river. It always stays in the ocean. So these bhakta makaras, the devotee, shark-like devotees, they never leave the realm of bhakti sindhu, bhakti rasamrita sindhu, and go to the river-like practices of liberation that lead to liberation. And so he is making another very important point here, that the process of logic or karma and jnana Mimamsaka. Mimamsaka means the useless argumentative logicians. The argumentative logicians. So they argue, they try to present all kinds of theories trying to minimize the process of devotion. There are many such logicians, those who try to defeat the purpose of devotion. Now, Rupa Goswami is comparing those logicians to a volcano. So apparently volcano is very dangerous. The volcano can destroy even a city. Like there are instances in Italy. In Italy there is a very famous volcano called Vesuvius, and there was a city called Pompeii. And the Pompeii, just out of a volcanic eruption, the whole city was destroyed. Similarly, in Japan, there is a volcano called Fujiyama. And so these volcanoes are very dangerous. But if the volcano is in the ocean, inside the ocean, then what happens? Can the volcano do anything? It becomes completely useless. Inside, there are some volcanoes that are in the ocean, but they can't. Can they affect the ocean? No. Similarly, Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu, the ocean of devotion, or those devotees who are dwelling in that ocean of devotion, they are not affected by these argumentative logicians. Just with a wave of their hand, they just brush them aside. Now then Rupa Goswami is making a point. The author of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami, very humbly submits that he is just trying to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. Although he humbly thinks himself unfit for this work, that should be the attitude of all preachers of Krishna consciousness. Rupa Goswami, just consider what an exalted personality. Like you remember what Rupa Goswami was? Rupa Goswami was the finance minister of the king of Bengal. And Rupa Goswami was a Brahmin. Now why did the Muslim king appoint a Brahmin as his minister, finance minister? Can you tell me why? Because of his learning, because of his intelligence, because of his brilliance. When he got to know about the brilliance of this person, he thought, I must have this person in my court. So that's why, so we can well imagine, what a brilliant personality Rupa Goswami was. And now you consider a Muslim king, shouldn't he have just appointed a Muslim person as the minister? It's a natural tendency. You get to have your own man in an exalted position. But why did the Muslim king appoint Rupa Goswami as the finance minister, the most important department? Why?
Brahmanas normally have truthfulness and honesty.
Well, they may be, and those Brahmanas, those Muslims are killing. Because of his brilliance. He was so brilliant, he was so capable that he automatically rose to that position. And that's why, actually otherwise the Muslims are killing the Brahmanas. So they are not appreciating the truthfulness and Brahminical qualities. I mean, when he appointed him in his assembly, then he saw what a brilliant person he is, and he saw that he is the most competent person. So anyway, we can see, even as a minister, he must have been such a brilliant personality. But then he gives up that position after meeting Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Can you imagine how deep his faith was? Like, if we consider in ISKCON, how many such rich people have given up everything and become full-time devotees? Although there are so many facilities, like when you become a devotee now in ISKCON, you get a nice accommodation in Mayapur and other places and so forth, but still how many are coming and joining? Now Rupa Goswami, for the sake of his commitment to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he left everything and went to Vrindavan. And mind you, in Vrindavan there was no MVT, guest houses and ISKCON temple. Those days Vrindavan was just a forest. There was hardly anybody living around there, maybe some small villages here and there. So he leaves everything behind, goes to Vrindavan. So we can well imagine how committed he must have been. Such a brilliant personality. But what he is doing while he is starting the work of Nectar of Devotion, he is appealing to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, expressing his inability, asking for his mercy. So what does this display? It displays his humble disposition. So Prabhupada is emphatically pointing out that a devotee who is wanting to preach must be humble. He should never think that he is competent in accomplishing those missions. He must depend upon Krishna's mercy. Then Prabhupada is pointing out after that, that after the invocation, in the introduction, Prabhupada is just giving a brief overview of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Sindhu, again we are going back to Sindhu. Sindhu means ocean. Now the ocean is generally divided into 4 parts. Eastern, southern, western and northern section of the ocean. So similarly this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the ocean of devotion, has been divided into 4 sections, vibhags, into 4 parts, just as the ocean is sometimes divided. And these oceans have waves. Similarly, now Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu's ocean also have waves. And in the first part, which is the eastern part, Purva Vibhag, Purva, Dakshin, Paschim and Uttar. So these are the 4 sections of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And now the eastern part has 4 waves. The first wave is the general description of devotional service. The second wave is the regulative principles for executing devotional service. Third wave is devotional service in ecstasy. And the fourth wave is the ultimate goal of devotion is love of Godhead. Yeah.
Actually, on page 409, there's like a chart.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right.
What page? 409.
Anyway, you can check that afterwards. And then Rupa Goswami is going into describing the first class devotional service. The bhakti, Uttama bhakti, first class devotional service, is known by one's tendency to be fully engaged in Krishna consciousness and serving the Lord favorably. Okay. And the first class devotional service is free from all fruitive activities and speculative knowledge. Speculative. There is a particular verse which you may have, you may know, is Anyabhilashita Shunnam Jnana Karmad Anabritam Anukullena Krishnanushilanam Bhaktir Uttama. Anyabhilashita Shunnam, free from all other abhilasha. Abhilash means desire. Anyabhilashita Shunnam, devoid of all other desires. Jnana Karmad Anabritam, free from the influence of jnana, speculative knowledge, and fruitive activities. Jnana Karmad Anabritam, uncovered. And Anukullena Krishnanushilanam Bhaktir Uttama. So I will just read this part. This is ultimate, the culmination of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu narration. The authorized description of bhakti or devotional service, following the footsteps of previous acharyas, can be summarized in the following statement by Srila Rupa Goswami. First class devotional service is known by one's tendency to be fully engaged in Krishna consciousness, serving the Lord favorably. The purpose is that one may also be in Krishna consciousness unfavorably, but that cannot be counted as pure devotional service. Pure devotional service should be free from the desire for any material benefit or for sense gratification, and that as these desires are cultivated through fruitive activities and philosophical speculation. Pure devotional service must always be free from such fruitive activities and philosophical speculation. One has to learn Krishna consciousness or pure devotional service from the authorities by spontaneous loving service. This devotional service is a sort of cultivation. It is not simply inaction for people who like to be inactive or devote their time to silent meditation. So Prabhupada is emphatically pointing out that sense gratification and silent meditation are not the goal of pure devotional service. So now Prabhupada is going into elaborating the concept of service. What is service? Service means, what is the definition of service? Who will say it?
Service means to please the object of being served.
Okay, to please the master.
Service means to exhibit our love towards them.
Very good, very good. To express our love, to express one's love for the object of his love, when he does something, that is service. Yes?
To satisfy the senses of the other.
Very good. To satisfy the senses of the object of love. Right?
To work for the benefit of the object of service.
To work
For the benefit of.
Yeah.
The interest of.
Yeah, right. To act for the benefit of the object of love. Yes.
Yeah, to put your own desires aside.
Yes, and in order to do that, you put your own desire aside, own interests aside. So that is the real attitude of service. So this way we can see that when somebody is serving for the sake of getting something, like nowadays there are so many servants everywhere, but they are serving for the sake of getting the salary at the end of the month, right? So that service is conditional. That is conditional because you give me money, I will serve you. But devotional service, Prabhupada is pointing out, is unconditional. Unconditional. There is no condition. Ahaituki apratihata. Unconditional and uninterrupted. So, now service can be rendered through body as well as through mind. Like when we do some action with the body, then that is service. But when that service is rendered through mind also, that also is service. Like you remember the incidents in Nectar of Devotion. One Brahmana was cooking sweet rice in his mind, in his meditation. And when he went to check whether the sweet rice was too hot or not, he put his finger there and his finger got burned. Finger got blistered. So in this way we can see that even mental service is real when it is for Krishna. And Prabhupada is pointing out that there are two types of service, physical service and mental service. But the object of the service should be Krishna. If we don't make Krishna the object of the service, it will just be a waste of time. Like waste of time means doing something which will not bear any fruit. It may bear some material fruit, a material reaction, but it is not going to fulfill our inner self. It don't satisfy us internally. Therefore, service must be in relation to Krishna through a bona fide spiritual master. Prabhupada again making a very emphatic point here, that service must be rendered through a bona fide spiritual master. Why Prabhupada is making that point so emphatic? Because otherwise one may say, well, I'm doing it for Krishna. Sometimes we hear people say, I'm doing it for Krishna. But the question is, you may be doing it for Krishna, but what's the guarantee that Krishna is accepting it? You may think that you are doing it for Krishna, but what is the guarantee that this is being appropriately executed? Therefore, the service must be rendered through an agent of Krishna, and that agent of Krishna is the spiritual master. So in this way, Rupa Goswami is very clearly pointing out that all the service, devotional service, must be rendered for the pleasure of Krishna through a bona fide spiritual master. And the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the Akhila Rasamrita Murti, as we described before. And as Brahma Samhita described, he is the Sarva Karana Karanam. He is the cause of all causes. So that is Krishna. Ishvaraha Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. He is the cause of all causes. He is the cause of his incarnations also. There are various incarnations, but Krishna is the cause of all the incarnations. And that Supreme Personality of Godhead has three energies. Are you all familiar with these three energies of the Lord? They are known as?
Internal, external and marginal.
Very good. Internal, external and marginal. Internal energy is the spiritual sky. External energy is this material nature. And living entities are the marginal. Why they are marginal? Marginal means they are situated at the borderline of material and spiritual. The line that is separating the material from the spiritual world. Meaning the living entity has the ability or option to either be in the spiritual world or in the material world. That choice is his. Therefore, he is considered to be marginal. And then Prabhupada is pointing out that the bona fide spiritual master is essential in our spiritual life. But the question then comes that how does one come across a bona fide spiritual master? Prabhupada is pointing out, quoting Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that when one becomes serious, then Krishna actually makes the arrangement. Krishna makes the arrangement to find a bona fide spiritual master. So the sincere souls will never be deprived. Krishna will make the arrangement because he is the super soul. He knows the heart. Therefore, he will direct them. And this Krishna consciousness, devotional service must be executed favorably. And we should be very careful that we do not render any devotional service unfavorably. Like for example, Ravan had the good fortune of being with Ramchandra, coming across Ramchandra. Kamsa, Shishupal, Dantavakra, all these demons had an opportunity to come close to Krishna. But did they become devotee of Krishna? What they did for Krishna, was it devotional service? Or it was a vengeful service, not loving service. It is, whatever they did is motivated by their animosity towards Krishna. And one who is interested in Krishna, becomes interested in his different pastimes and activities. We cannot be just interested in Krishna, but when we become interested in Krishna, then we become interested in Krishna's devotees, and we also become interested in his paraphernalia and other articles, entourage. Thank you all very much. So now I'll give a little break for 5 minutes. And then after the break,